Hi recap viewers, welcome back to Twisted Movies. Today, I will be recapping a romantic comedy drama film titled Crazy Rich Asian, which was released back in 2018. Don't forget, there are going to be spoilers ahead, so watch and enjoy the video. The movie begins with the view of a private hotel in London at the year 1995. It's a rainy day and some Asian kids are seen entering the hotel, as they are accompanied by their mother and some other lady. They were from Singapore. The mother of the kids, Mrs. Eleanor Young, goes to meet the receptionist, as she tells him that she had booked a reservation in the hotel, but he disagrees, telling her that she have had no reservation in the hotel. During the conversation, the manager walks in, but while Mrs. Eleanor had demanded to be shown her suite, he told her that they were fully booked. Mrs. Eleanor requested to call her husband using their phone booth, and while she returned, the manager threatens to call the police if she doesn't leave, but to his surprise, her husband had bought the hotel right away. The movie then brings us to the present in New York, where we see a girl, with the name Rachel Chu, who is a professor in economics and game theory. We also see a guy with the name Nick, and it reveals that both were lovers. In the next scene, we see Rachel and Nick eating in a restaurant, of which Nick later suggested that they should both travel to Singapore, his hometown, for his best friend's wedding as he was his best man, and also emphasized that Rachel would also meet his family and also see Peaklin, her roommate at college. While Rachel and Nick were discussing, a girl walked past and secretly took a photo of them and shared it on the internet, which went viral at once and got to Nick's mother, who turns out to be Mrs. Eleanor Young. She called her son, asking him if he was bringing Rachel to Colin's wedding, of which Nick was shocked on how his mother had found out, but soon figured it out. Nick tells his mother that he was coming home with Rachel, but she replied that the house was not ready for guests, telling him that Rachel would have to stay somewhere else. Next, we see Rachel and her mother, Carrie Chu, in a cloth store as they were finding a good dress that Rachel would wear to see Nick's family. During the shopping, Rachel tells her mother that she don't know much about Nick's family, and anytime she tries to discuss it with Nick, he changes the subject. Hearing this, her mother thought that maybe his parents are poor, and he is embarrassed to talk about his family. Later on at the airport in New York, Rachel sees some airport potters. As they approach them, offers to carry their bags and check them into first class. Rachel thought that they were mistaking them to somebody else, but Nick asked her to go with it. While they are in their suite, Rachel demanded to know how Nick was able to afford first class, causing him to reveal his family background to her. Nick and Rachel had just arrived at the airport in Singapore, and are welcomed by Nick's best friend, Collins, and his wife-to-be, Araminta. They drove them round the city, and later went to a local restaurant, where Araminta later invited Rachel to her bachelor party. Somewhere else, we see Nick's sister, Astrid, as she walks into her house with some packages, and ordered her house help to hide the packages, while she hid her box of earrings on top of a wardrobe. After that, we see her husband Michael on the bathroom, and while he came out, he told Astrid that he'd caught her maid trying to hide a pair of Jimmy Choos behind a dryer. He also asked her why she always hid her shopping from him, but she avoids the conversation, as she gave him an expensive wristwatch which she had bought for him. Rachel later goes to visit her old college roommate, Peaklin, and had lunch with her family. During the lunch, Rachel somehow explained that she had followed her boyfriend to Singapore for a wedding and also to meet his family. Peaklin's father, Mr. Goh, asked Rachel who the guy was, but while she tells them that he was Nick Young, the whole family froze in shock, including Peaklin, as she had not known that the Nick Rachel came with was Nick from the Young family. Peaklin later offered her a new dress, and also told her that the Young family were crazy rich. Later in the evening, Peaklin drove Rachel to Nick's family house, as the family was having a big dinner party. And while they arrived, Nick urged her to also join the party. Nick took Rachel to his mom, but she doesn't seem to like her. She asked Rachel about her family, which she told her that her father had died before she was born. Rachel later met Astrid and her husband Michael, and while they exchanged greetings, Nick's brother Edison Cheng and his wife Fiona walks in. Nick took Rachel to meet the rest of his family, and somewhere else, Astrid is shocked to find out that Michael is having an affair. Nick later introduced Rachel to his ma, of which she liked Rachel. Rachel later went to Araminta's bachelor party, where she met Amanda Ling, who introduced herself as a lawyer to the Young family cooperation. They talked for a while and later joined the other girls, as they all went to Araminta's mom resort in Sumatra. Nick, on the other hand, joined Collins to a bachelor party that was organized for him. During the party, Nick's brother Edison Cheng condemned Rachel, which almost caused Nick to fight him, but he is stopped by Collins and both left the party. They went to an island, from which Nick reveals to Collins his plan of proposing to Rachel, but Collins expressed his concern about the hidden conflict it could cause, as Nick is expected to stay in Singapore and run the family business, and Rachel, on the other hand, loves her job in New York. Somewhere else, at Araminta's mom resort, Amanda reveals that she is Nick's former girlfriend, and confirms that Rachel may face rejection from the Young family because of her family background. She also altered some words that made Rachel sad. Rachel later encountered Astrid, and they soon found out that her bed was vandalized by some of the girls, as they referred to her as a gold digger. Astrid helps Rachel in cleaning up the mess, and also reveals to Rachel that Michael is having an affair. Rachel later told Nick about Amanda, and how her room was vandalized by some of the girls, but he apologizes to her, and they both later joined the family to make dumplings. While the family were making dumplings, Rachel gave Mrs. Eleanor compliments on her ring, as she had loved it. Mrs. Eleanor recounts the sacrifice she made to become a part of the Young family, and made jabs at Rachel for her American background, particularly highlighting her unwillingness to place family over self. Mrs. Eleanor privately told Rachel how Nick's father had to get the ring, because Their Amma disapproved Eleanor and refused to give Nick's father the family ring. And also told Rachel that she will never be enough for her son and the family. Rachel later discussed her encounter with Mrs. Eleanor to Peaklin, but she convinced Rachel to stand up to Mrs. Eleanor and earn her respect. On the day of the wedding, Astrid opens to Michael that she knows he is having a secret affair. But he blames his unhappiness and the financial disparity between them on her. While the wedding was about to start, Rachel walks in, but Mrs. Eleanor refused to let her seat with them. But she later made her way to the front seat, and sat with a great article writer, Princess Inton. While the wedding went on, Rachel and Nick stared at each other, of which Nick whispered, "I love you," to her. Mrs. Eleanor sees this and was angry. Later at the reception, Nick's Amma and Mrs. Eleanor privately confronted Rachel and Nick. Using the findings of a private investigator, Mrs. Eleanor revealed that Rachel's father was alive and Rachel was conceived through an extramarital affair, after which her mother Carrie left her husband and fled to America. They demanded that Nick and Rachel will stop seeing each other. This startled Rachel, as her mother had told her that her father was dead. She fled to Peaklin's home and remained in bed, in a depressed stupor. Soon, Rachel's mom arrived and explained to her daughter that her husband wasn't a good man and he was abusive, but an old classmates comforted her, and they fell in love and had a surprise baby, and fled with the baby Rachel, because she was afraid that her husband would kill them both. She also told Rachel that Nick had called her to Singapore and urged Rachel to talk to him. When Rachel and Nick met, he apologized to her and proposed to her, as he was willing to abandon his family and wealth to be with Rachel. Rachel later arranges to meet Mrs. Eleanor in a mahjong parlor. And while they started playing, Rachel reveals that she had declined Nick's proposal. She indicates that Mrs. Eleanor has placed the family in an unattainable position. She then analyzed that she is leaving not because she is afraid, but because she does not want Nick to lose his family. She hands Mrs. Eleanor the mahjong tile and let her win, therefore demonstrating her willingness to place family over herself, so she left with her mom Carrie. Moreover, Astrid decides to leave Michael. Michael tried to shift the blames on Astrid, but she confronted him, telling him that he was a coward, and his insecurities caused their marriage to fail. Mrs. Eleanor goes to meet Nick and spoke to him, while Rachel and her mother booked a flight to New York. But while they are in the plane, Nick stopped them and proposed again, but this time, he proposed with Mrs. Eleanor's beautiful ring, which Rachel had earlier admired, signifying his mother's approval towards Rachel. Rachel accepts his proposal, and they stayed in Singapore and hosted an engagement party. At the party, Rachel saw Mrs. Eleanor, and she smiles at her. The movie ends as Rachel and Nick gave each other a romantic kiss. That was all from the video. Thanks for watching. Do not forget to leave a like on this video, also hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified anytime we post more recap videos like this.